I love Batman Arkham Origins. After a decade, I can confidently say that this is my favorite game out of the Arkham quadrilogy. While Arkham City changed the genre as we know it, there's something special about Origins. This game came out during arguably one of the best years in gaming, and with the impending release of the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, I didn't put as much time into this entry as I did with Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. It's been a bit over a year since I started my journey to platinum all of the games in the Arkham series, and I knew Origins was going to be the biggest hurdle I had to face. A quick recap for those who haven't played this game in a really long time. Batman Arkham Origins is technically the third game to be released in the Arkham series and takes place years before the events of Arkham Asylum. We play as a younger and more emotional Batman who has to make it through Christmas Eve with a bounty placed on his head by Black Mask. Bringing 8 of the world's best assassins to Gotham, Batman has to take down not only Black Mask, but all of these assassins in one night. Going into this, I thought this would be a pretty straightforward platinum, but this turned out to be the most intensive journey in the Arkham series. This begins with Phase 1, the multiplayer. Arkham Origins was the only game in the series to feature multiplayer, and I was surprised that the servers were still working for this game when I got these trophies. Kinda. The servers for multiplayer supposedly shut down years ago, but there was a workaround that wasn't really fun. You have to wait somewhere between 45 minutes to an hour before you somehow bypass an error message to join the servers. When I was eventually able to get through, I was faced with another hurdle: finding a group of people who actually wanted to play the multiplayer. With the game being 10 years old on a console that's 2 generations behind and servers that don't work half the time, it was no surprise that this multiplayer hardly had any active users. But I really wanted these trophies, so I had to reach out to a few people who pointed me in the direction of a boosting group. Only 3 people are required to start a game, but we would soon need 8 people for some of the more involved trophies. After a week or so of trying to coordinate everyone's schedules, we were finally able to get some games going. So how does the multiplayer work? We stuck to the Invisible Predator mode the entire time, which sees members of Bane and Joker's faction fighting for control over a map. In the meantime, Batman and Robin make their way around the map, picking off members of each faction. It's an interesting concept that I think could have worked really well if different aspects of it were fleshed out more. But it sadly feels like one of those cases of a predominantly single-player game having a forced multiplayer mode. Nevertheless, there are 11 trophies, so let's start with the 4 that I didn't get a recording of. The first one is Arsenal Awesome, which sees us fully upgrade a weapon. Next was I Like Those Odds, where as a hero, I had to defeat 4 elites within 40 seconds using only melee. The easiest way to do this was to have 4 of us grouped together while the heroes placed down explosive gel to blow all of us up.
Bunch of jackasses standing in a circle.
Know That Enemy goes hand in hand with another trophy I'll talk about later, but this requires defeating each enemy at least once in a multiplayer match. And finally, there's Fallen Knight, where we have to reach the max level of 30 with Bane's faction. Now to the ones I do have footage of. With the small group of trophy hunters I was with, the first trophy I unlocked was getting 4,000 XP in a single match. In some of our earlier games, we would just play like normal, and I was able to get almost 5,000 XP, more than what was required for my first multiplayer trophy. There was another method we used to rack up a ton of XP in a match, which I will get into in a minute. Next, we worked on getting a win on each map with each faction. I just kept a checklist nearby to keep track of the maps and factions I won with. Soon after unlocking this trophy, I was surprised that I had already reached the max overall level in multiplayer. As you can see, there are 3 different levels that you work towards. One for Bane, which I mentioned already, Joker, and your overall level. The overall level is heavily influenced by the Bane and Joker factions, but the heroes can help build XP in this category. The best way we found to rack up a ton of XP was by holding the control points. For example, whenever I took over a control point, someone from the opposing gang would step in so the meter could go down, and then I would step back in to reclaim the control point. As the hero, we could go around and neutralize the control point, giving us a decent chunk of XP as well. We did this method a lot, so I was able to unlock this trophy in no time. The next one required a bit more coordination with my boosting partners since we were all going for the trophy. We had to kill a hero to bring back our entire gang when we were at 0 reinforcements on a full server.
Hey, but you're all toast! Mr. J is making a personal appearance.
This trophy and the next one I'm going to talk about were very nerve-inducing because we needed a full server. Getting 3 people was easy enough, but getting 8 people to play at the same time proved to be incredibly difficult. Everyone's got different plans, I worked on the weekends at the time, and the servers weren't always reliable. There were a ton of variables holding all of us back for a few days. However, the stars aligned one night and we were finally able to get 8 people to join a server. We set aside every other trophy to work on Clutch and Predator Paragon. Predator Paragon was going to be the most challenging trophy to get throughout this entire journey. It requires taking down 6 different elites in a match using 6 different methods as Batman or Robin. Thanks to the gaming gods, we had a full server and no one was booted off. Like other trophies, boosting was the only manageable way of getting this since you had to keep track of who you took down and the method. Quickly jotting things down between each takedown, I finally managed to get probably the most stressful multiplayer trophy. The last thing I had to worry about was leveling up the Joker faction so I could prestige. I didn't have much left, so after about 20 minutes of doing the boosting method I mentioned before, I maxed out the Joker faction, which allowed me to prestige, giving me the last multiplayer trophy for Arkham Origins. Moving on to the single player campaign, I already had 11 trophies from when I played this game 10 years ago. So all that was left was to clean up the remaining single player trophies. I didn't have any saves available, so I had to start the game from scratch, but I won't complain since this was the best opportunity to pick up some trophies that would be tough on higher difficulties and to experience what I would consider to be the best story out of the Arkham games. The first trophy I had to look out for was completing the fight with Deathstroke without failing a single counter. This one was tricky because timing is incredibly important. One missed counter meant I had to restart the fight from the very beginning. What makes things more challenging is that he'll add some new moves in the middle of a fight, or throw in a few more hits. This took me a few tries, but it wasn't too frustrating. The next combat trophy really put me to the test. I had to successfully fight Shiva without taking any damage. If I was fighting only Shiva, this wouldn't be nearly as bad, but you have to fight ninjas, which are already tough opponents to begin with. To make things worse, there are 2 phases in the fight. In hindsight, I wish I had done this fight later when I had more upgrades to make quick work of the ninjas, but I had to work with what I had. Like the Deathstroke fight, one wrong move meant I had to start the fight from the very beginning.
Again. 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 Again.
Let me show you treat. Why did you come? Don't you have a city to save?
You killed a man.
Yes.
Hearing this audio over and over again became incredibly annoying really quick. Once I managed to get through the first phase, I had to lock in and make smart use of my electric gloves. With some perseverance, I finally got through the fight without taking any damage.
I see now why the Master has chosen you.
While we're talking about these assassins, there is a trophy for putting a stop to all of them. We stopped most of the assassins during the story, like Killer Croc, Copperhead, and Firefly. Shiva and Deadshot are the only 2 who aren't story-based. After assessing a crime scene involving a crashed helicopter, this leads me to a bank where Deadshot and a few goons are guarding a bank. After getting through this Predator encounter, I defeated Deadshot and stopped all of the assassins in Gotham.
Well, I've gotta say, I was expecting someone a little more intimidating.
However, these aren't the only threats in Gotham tonight. For starters, Enigma is here and has a ton of stuff we have to do. In each district are these network relays, which serve as fast travel spots when they're shut down and expose all network relays for that district. Each one has 10, but destroying them in only one district unlocks a trophy. That's not the only thing he has up his sleeve. Since this is before Arkham Asylum, instead of Riddler trophies, he has extortion files spread all over the map. There are 200 of them, which is significantly less than Arkham Asylum and especially City, but add the network relays on top of that, and it's still a pretty decent time sink. The first trophy I got was finding my first set of 10, which deciphers one of the files. Now, it took a while to find all 200 of them, so I want to talk about another collectible related trophy. Anarchy is another threat looming in the city, and while he has his own set of missions that see us destroying bombs, he also has Anarchy tags that are only visible with detective vision. I want to say I scanned maybe 2 of them by the time I finished the story, so I pulled up a guide to find all 20 of them. In the process, I destroyed all of the network relays, and took the next couple of nights to find the rest of Enigma's extortion files. All that was left to do was to put a stop to Enigma. Heading back to his hideout, I hacked a door that took me to the infamous Riddler trophy. After grabbing it, I finally found every collectible in the game. I was never into collecting Riddler trophies when I was younger, so it was satisfying completing this quest today. Another aspect I didn't play when I first got this game was the different case files. You go through a couple during the campaign, but there are more waiting for you in the city. Recreating crime scenes was one of my favorite aspects of the main story, and I enjoyed going back through to solve these various crimes that are happening in Gotham. It didn't take too long to go through each of them, and it unlocked another most wanted mission. 20 Blackgate inmates have escaped and are scattered around the city. Defeating all of them wrapped up all of the most wanted missions. Now it's time for the miscellaneous trophies. First was for gliding 26 miles in the main story, stopping 20 crimes in progress, fast travel to all available spots, use every free flow gadget in one combo, and, at least for this playthrough, hear everything Alfred had to say. This trophy sucks. It sounds incredibly simple. Just return to the Batcave periodically to hear what Alfred has to say and gain some wisdom. Easy, right? What makes this trophy more difficult than it has to be is that Alfred repeats the same lines over and over and over again. This took way longer than it should have. I spent, I want to say, 30 minutes on this one trophy. It wasn't until he talked about a giant bat eating a ham that I finally got the trophy. Before I move on to my New Game Plus playthrough, I want to talk about upgrades. For the most part, they remain unchanged. However, some of these upgrades and gadgets are locked exclusively behind challenges. This isn't something new to the franchise, but tying them into the upgrades was an interesting design choice. These challenges also have trophies that come with them. 4 different tracks tie into different aspects of the game. There's a track for combat, predator encounters, completing a crime database, and performing tasks around the map. Each track comes with 15 challenges, and most of them are simple, like doing a counter 3 different times in one combat encounter, completing AR drills, or getting through a predator encounter without using detective vision. But there is one catch. They can only be done in order. This isn't a problem when it comes to the Shadow Vigilante or World's Greatest Detective tracks, but Worst Nightmare was exactly how it sounds. A nightmare. Let's start with the Shadow Vigilante track, which focuses on combat. All of these were fairly simple except for the last one, where I had to get a 50 hit combo with 15 combo variations. Nothing too bad, but finding a large enough group was troublesome. Luckily there was a crime in progress that had a decent number of enemies that I could complete this with. When the fight was over, I completed the Shadow Vigilante track. Next was the World's Greatest Detective, which I completed after deciphering one of the extortion files. The Gotham Protector track saw me complete different activities while free roaming. The only one that I found to be annoying was the last one, where I had to stop a crime in progress in every district. Again, these challenges can only be done in order, so having to stop in every district again was frustrating. This is also where I ran into a little snag. The Gotham Pioneers Bridge doesn't have any more crimes show up after fighting Firefly, so I either had to wait for New Game Plus, or start a crime in progress in Sheldon Park and go to a small corner under the bridge so it would count as Gotham Pioneers Bridge. Luckily that worked, and I didn't have to save this trophy for New Game Plus. The only track I had left was the Worst Nightmare track, which I wasn't able to complete during my first playthrough. Unlike the other tracks, this one has challenges that can only be done in specific Predator encounters. Take this room for example, where I had to perform a vent, hanging ledge, corner, and explosive takedown in one encounter, and that's only the 6th challenge. Now this can all be done in one playthrough, but I learned this extremely late during this journey. This properly takes us to New Game Plus. If you are familiar with this mode from Arkham City, there isn't anything new here. The enemies are tough, faster, and don't have the counter icon when they're about to attack. If you are someone who is looking for more challenge from these games, this is the experience you're looking for. During this playthrough, I was able to complete a couple more challenges on the Worst Nightmare track and unlock the final upgrade I needed, giving me the trophy for acquiring all upgrades. Unfortunately, I was still unable to complete all of the challenges during this playthrough. The one that stumped me this time around was taking out 3 enemies with 1 propane tank. As you can see, I was really struggling to get it, and it wouldn't be until my 3rd playthrough where I got that challenge done. Once I finished my New Game Plus run, I got the trophy for that. And I want to take a moment to praise the people who made this trophy list. Something I hated during my Arkham City Platinum was having to complete all of the side missions again during New Game Plus. Here, I could just cruise on through the story. Before we get to the 3rd playthrough, I have to talk about the challenges next because this is where the hunt for the Platinum nearly went unfinished. Challenge maps return in Origins and continue to be a true test of your skills as Batman. However, with some gadgets like the electric gloves and remote claw, this set of challenges were some of the easiest ones to get throughout the series. Even the Predator challenge maps, something I struggled with in the past, were easier to get through this time. I started with the combat training maps, which help to get those who haven't played the Arkham games before familiar with the combat and the different enemy types. Since I'm already familiar with the Arkham games, this did feel unnecessary, but I had to get through them, which were fairly simple. I then went on to tackle the ranked maps, which took us to some of the game's iconic arenas to dish out pain to increasingly tough opponents. Again, if you played these in Asylum or City, you know what you're getting yourself into. The electric gloves made things a lot easier, which can be for better or worse depending on how you feel about this mechanic. They take away the challenge, but do help increase your combo much faster, which is incredibly important during this mode. Predator maps test your stealth skills and require you to complete 3 specific objectives. For an increased challenge, the extreme maps for both combat and Predator challenges put you up against tougher enemies early on and have very specific objectives on the Predator maps. With 6 regular and 6 extreme maps for both types, this took me a couple of days to unlock, but wasn't anything too challenging to me. I'm going to skip around a bit and talk about the custom challenge maps. I was disappointed with what these were. I was expecting them to have some kind of fun twist to the formula, but no. You start each map with the same set of options to make the challenges as difficult or as easy as you want them to be. Since these were the same maps with the same enemies, I wanted to finish them as fast as possible, so I stuck with the same 3 modifiers for each map and kept it moving. Now we get to the biggest hurdle the game has to offer, the campaign maps. Putting together 3 challenge maps, you have to go through and get all 3 medals for each map in one go. The catch is you have to apply specific modifiers that either hinder you or make the challenges much more easier. I usually save these for last, so again, nothing new, which did create some tedium for me. However, it was here that I almost considered stopping my platinum journey altogether. You unlock 6 of the 12 campaign maps by playing the story. By the time I finished my first and New Game Plus playthroughs, along with a few of the campaigns, I was missing one of the maps that can only be unlocked during the campaign. After doing some research, I found out I had run into a save bug that prevented me from unlocking the challenge map on this save file. Even after reaching the point where I should have unlocked it during my third playthrough, I unfortunately wasn't able to unlock the map. This meant only one thing. I had to play the game again from scratch on a different save file. Not only that, but I had to complete some of the challenges again as there were gadgets I needed for specific Predator maps that were locked behind these challenges. I was completely defeated and took a break from the game for a few more days to focus on other platinums I was trying to get. However, it didn't take too long for me to restart on a new save file. Going through the story again, I got to the point where I reached the bug during my first playthrough and made sure that I made it to a good point to check and see if it was unlocked. Luckily, it did, and there was hope that the platinum would be mine again. Going through and completing the worst nightmare challenges and a few additional side activities, I was ready to tackle most of these challenge maps again. It was extremely tedious having to play these maps multiple times over again, but once I finished the campaign I missed out on the first time, I got the trophy. Now there were only a few more and the platinum would be mine. The final step of this platinum journey was to play the game on I Am the Night mode. This is practically the same as New Game Plus, except you only have one life. You die at any point during this playthrough, and all of your progress is erased. I was nervous going into this mode, more so because of the boss fights, Bane and Firefly specifically. Bane is just a tough opponent and almost got me a couple of times. The Firefly fight wasn't challenging, but there's a part at the end that got me a couple times during New Game Plus since there wasn't a counter icon. But there were a few trophies I unlocked as well during this playthrough. I was finally able to finish all of the worst nightmare challenges, giving me the trophy for completing that track. And completing all Dark Knight challenges. Lastly, I took down 100 enemies who didn't know I was there. And after defeating Bane and stopping the Joker for what would be my fourth time, I got the trophy for finishing I Am the Night mode, which gave me the long-awaited platinum for Batman Arkham Origins.
Come on, baby. Beat me till your knuckles bleed. Why quit there? You know there's only one way to stop me.
Even though I got the platinum, I want to show my dedication and truly 100% this game, so it's time to tackle the DLC trophies. If you were just here to see me get the platinum, thank you for sticking around this long, and I hope to see you guys around in future videos. For those of you who are staying, let's talk about the first set of DLC trophies for Initiation. There's only 2, and they're for completing the challenge maps as Bruce Wayne. Yeah, extremely jazzed to go through these again. I will say it was a nice change to play as Bruce Wayne since I couldn't rely on the electric gloves to get through this, so I really had to rely on my combos. The Predator maps though were a pain in the ass to get through. Like the other challenge trophies, I set aside a few days to get both the ranked and campaign maps done. Next is the Cold Heart DLC. In the 10 years that this game has been released, I have never played this, so I was excited to tackle something new. The DLC takes place a few days after the main campaign. Ferris Boyle wins an award from a ceremony being held by Bruce Wayne until Mr. Freeze makes a chilling appearance. Stepping away, we make our way through the manor, saving those we can. I made it through this section without taking any damage, which gave me a trophy. Escaping the manor, we gather more information on Freeze and how Penguin is tied up in all this. This takes us to Gothcorp, which is completely covered in ice. Catching up to Freeze, he blocks us off by creating a giant ice wall, which happens to encase Penguin. He points us in the direction of a cryo drill that can help us get through the wall, but it's broken into pieces. In the process, we get the extreme environment suit to help us get through the rest of Gothcorp.
Structure insulates against extreme cold without increasing weight. It won't slow me down a bit.
It doesn't take long for us to gather the different pieces of the cryo drill, which also gives us more backstory into Mr. Freeze and why Boyle is so important to him.
Experimental lab run by one Victor Freeze.
Once we reach the wall and assemble the drill, it's a straight shot to Freeze and we engage in the only boss fight for the DLC. It's very reminiscent of the boss fight from Arkham City, but isn't as intricate, which I don't think is too much of a bad thing. It was a very engaging and tough boss fight, which I can always appreciate. Once we defeat him, we get our last story-related trophy for the DLC.
Take a seat, humanitarian.
Overall, I had a really good time with the DLC. Mr. Freeze has always been a fascinating character to me, so getting to explore his character more through this DLC was extremely fun. It also introduces some new gameplay features that make exploring this small section of Gotham exciting. Some of these features also tie into the trophies. There are a few combat related ones from the new environmental hazards this DLC introduces. There's a new enemy type that can freeze anyone he blasts in his path. There's also these propane tanks which can freeze enemies as well. No matter the method, I just had to freeze 3 enemies at once. Very cheeky name if I do say so myself. In some spots around the environment are stalactites that can be dropped onto enemies. I simply have to take down 2 enemies with 1 stalactite, which I unlocked when I first learned about it. Lastly, I had to perform 3 ice wall takedowns. There's only one good spot to do this, and it's during the last Predator encounter. However, I realized this too late and got worried that I missed the only chance to get this done. During the Mr. Freeze boss fight, there are more ice walls providing me the opportunity to finish the trophy without having to do another playthrough. Finally, there are the open world activities to take care of. Around the map are 20 civilians who have been frozen and require the XE suit to break them free. After I got the suit, I tried to get as many as I could along the way and got the rest of them after my playthrough.
Can't believe what I'm seeing.
Anarchy has made a return and has a couple of different activities that need to be stopped. There are 4 thug operations that only require beating down a few enemies. The last thing I did was find the 12 Anarchy tags. I did have to pull up a guide to find the final few, but once I found the last one, I got the very last trophy I needed for Batman Arkham Origins. After embarking on 4 playthroughs and spending at least 50 hours in Arkham Origins, I was left extremely satisfied getting the Platinum Trophy for one of my favorite games. Going through this journey reinforced the love and respect that I have for Arkham Origins. While I can say Arkham City is objectively the better game, Arkham Origins still remains my favorite out of the 4 mainline games. While the game gets plenty of praise, I wish more people could experience what made Arkham Origins great in the first place with a remaster. It's a shame this game hasn't received one because it's arguably the one that needs it the most. This game on PS3 is janky. It's baffling to me that this game has yet to receive a remaster. I know WB Montréal is the one who made this, but still, Rocksteady, make it happen.
Give me what I want. Give me what I want!
Similar to when I went for the Platinum in Arkham City, this one took over my life for a few weeks. I even had dreams about this Platinum, which is the only way I can express how dedicated I was. While there were some annoying trophies in the single player, and a bug almost made me quit this journey altogether, at the end of the day, I'm glad I stuck through it and fully completed one of my favorite games ever. Not only that, but this was my 50th Platinum Trophy, something I was extremely proud of. That about does it for the video. Thanks for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. What are your thoughts on Batman Arkham Origins? What's your favorite Batman game? Leave your comments down below. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. See you guys next time.